Hey, what's up, people? I've got these two voice boxes that a friend of mine asked me if I could help him take a look at. They are from Build-A-Bears. I'm assuming they're bears. I don't know if they have any other types of stuffed animals, but they're supposed to play something when you, for example, this one you squeeze. It's supposed to play back a message. I don't know if it's something that's been recorded to it or if it's something that's already kind of pre-built. This one is recordable. You can see it's got a microphone and it's got that button that you're supposed to be able to push and it's supposed to say its message. And I asked him if the batteries had been replaced, and he says that they did replace them, and unfortunately, they're still not working. So I'm kind of leaning towards maybe something happened with batteries being in here too long. Maybe they leaked or something and caused some problems. So let's open them up and we'll see if we can help them out. This one's pretty easy to open. It's got 3 tabs. So if we just pull up on this, it starts separating. Okay, so this one, the back came off. See, this is just the button. It's got that carbon pad, and that makes contact with those pads in the middle. Nothing drastic that I can see. There appears to be some sort of residue around the button, but that looks like maybe it's just, I don't know, something from that. It doesn't look too bad. But let's take the batteries out and see what sort of voltage we've got on those. He said they were new, so you'd think that it would just work, but there's the main board. Those contacts look a little weird. Let's get the microscope and take a look at that up close. Okay, I think, I mean, they don't look great, but I realized that they're just the pins for the microphone, so even if there was something wrong with the microphone, it shouldn't affect the playback. But while we're down here, let's take a look around, see if there's anything we can spot that might look kind of weird or problematic. Those are the 2 wires for the speaker. Those look like they are soldered in there fairly well. That's the main IC on this board. Actually, it's the only IC on this board. It says TR. There we go. That makes it easier to read. So it's TR81065B. I don't even know if we can find any information about this particular IC. Oh, that no good. Look at that. Looks like there is some corrosion inside of that via, as well as that one. So I think right there too. So I think my initial suspicion of maybe battery leakage might have done some damage might be true right there as well. So let's, yeah. Okay. So I think we're dealing with a case of battery leakage. What's this for? I think that's for the switch. So yeah, so this switch is for selecting whether it's in playback mode and record mode, or if you just want to turn the entire thing off. So it's possible that there could be something wrong with the switch. It looks like they didn't bother to solder the tabs on the ends of the switch. Those are the metal can itself. You can see on both sides they didn't solder them in. Doesn't appear that should have any effect on anything because that's most likely going to be ground. And as we can see, there's a big trace going from this side of the board over to the other. Oh, look at that capacitor. All right, well, I think we know what we're dealing with. But anyways, that trace goes all the way over to this side. That's that one via that has corrosion. That via looks like it may possibly have corrosion as well. And that capacitor looks sort of discolored. It's kind of weird. All right, so this board pops out of this frame. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to bring the speaker through. Or maybe it can. If I squeeze the sides. There we go. All right, so I brought the entire board through. Let's pop these batteries out. Looks like we should just be able to push them out. There's one, and these are just the like LR44 type, or what they go by, like 348 or 357. As we can see, there are 3 of those. Let's check the voltage on these batteries. And that has voltage of about 1.22, which is not good. The second battery, about pretty similar voltage. So these batteries don't appear to be very good. All right, well, I think we'll try some new batteries then and see what happens. But in the meantime, I did notice that there is corrosion on the battery terminals where the negative makes contact. So we're going to have to clean that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to desolder these wires for the speaker from the board because they're just kind of flapping around and they're probably just going to end up breaking. While I maneuver the board around to try to clean it up, and not having those wires in the way would be ideal. And all of the negative battery contacts, they have a via that goes from the battery side of the board over to a trace on the opposite side. So this the negative would go to the positive of the next battery. And as we can see there's the two rivets that go to the other battery terminal. So, and then this negative also has another via, and that's that one. You can see it goes to the positive of the next battery. And so that via would be for the third battery. So after I clean these, I'll check and make sure that we have continuity going from each one of these pads to the opposite side of the board. Or actually what I can do is I can check to see if there's continuity between that pad and the adjacent battery. And if we have contact or if we have continuity there, then we can assume that that via is good. So I'm going to get some vinegar on a cotton swab, and we'll try to clean all that corrosion off. And here goes the first swab with the vinegar. We're looking for some effervescent action happening on that contact. Yep, yeah, you can see the fizzing. So let's try to get all of that stuff off. Looks like it's worse right down in the middle. Yeah, you can see it's a little dirty, so I'll just try to clean these up as best as I can, and then we'll do some continuity tests. And while I'm on here, let's try to get some vinegar into that via and see if we can clean it out and try to push it in there with a needle. Okay, and after a second round, it looks better. That pad looks pretty good. That one has some discoloration, some little blotchiness, but not too bad. This one's probably the worst one, but that's about as good as it got. So now let's do a continuity test. And just by looking at the board, it looks like the negative from this battery is the main ground, and the positive from this battery is the positive, which would be about like 4.5 volts or so. So we need to see if we have continuity between this positive cover and that negative pad, and then this positive cover and that negative pad. So let's see what we have. Positive on this and negative on there. So about half an ohm. Let's see. I didn't exactly zero this out. So there we go. Okay. So actually, it looks like this might be okay. So yeah, that's actually pretty good. So let's check the second one. And that also looks pretty good. So it appears that there's no continuity issue, so that's a good sign. I guess I just can't see the plating inside of those vias, but it looks like it's definitely there because they are making, or they do have some pretty good continuity. I thought I had a pack of brand new button cells, but I guess I must have used them all. I can't seem to find them. And I looked in my container of button cell batteries. I don't have any. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to test this with batteries. So what I'm doing instead is I've got my power supply set to about 4.3 volts, and I've limited it to about 25 milliamps. So I'm just going to clip these directly onto the positive terminal, and then I'm going to have to touch the other one to the negative terminal, and then we'll push the button. We'll see if we get anything out of it. If it outputs some voice, then we pretty much know that it was just the bad or the corroded terminals that were causing problems. So this was the main positive terminal, and down there is the negative. So should be able to just push this button, and hopefully it'll say something. I don't know what's recorded on this, so let's see. Ah, sweet. So it's working, but I'm hitting the limit of the current, so it's dropping out. So I'm going to have to increase the current. I'll increase it to 130 milliamps. I think that should be more than enough. But as we can hear, it's definitely working. So it looks like that's what the problem was, just corroded battery terminals. Sweet, that works. It just needs new batteries. All right, then. So let's open up the second one. I have a feeling it's probably going to be a similar issue. There we go. That popped open. So this one has a blob. Batteries are going to be underneath. Looks like this one might only have two batteries, and there's two screws that I need to remove. All right, there's the 2 screws out. And oh yeah, that's going to be corrosion. Look at that. There's rust on that terminal, and there's corrosion on the board. So we might be in a similar situation. Let's pop these batteries out. See what those oh geez. Yep, looks like that's going to be the problem as well. All right, well, I'll get it cleaned up. This is probably going to be a really short video. Unless anything else comes up. Oh, and this one has a really thick trace going from the negative over to the positive on that side, and a big thick trace going from that negative over to the rest of the board. Or actually, it looks like maybe there was a sticker or something in the middle. That does look a little corroded, but I don't know if that V has been damaged or not. The other ones, from just a quick glance, they look like they might be okay. That one looks like it's got some corrosion. The other side of the board looks pretty good. All right, well, let's clean it up and see what happens. And you can tell that, yeah, there's stuff on the bottom of these batteries. So I don't know. He said that I guess they took both of these units in and the store replaced the batteries, or I'm guessing maybe they tested them and they didn't work, so they didn't leave the batteries in. I'm not sure, but this battery is working. Okay, there we go. So this one measures almost 1.6 volts, so that's pretty good. This one's about the same. So maybe, I don't know, I can't tell. Maybe these were new batteries. And it's just the bottom there's been just tarnished from the contact. So I'll clean these up. These are probably still good batteries. There's no obvious signs of leakage on these 2 button cells. So I think the stuff that's on them is just from what's on the board. So yeah, these batteries looks like they might be, they're still good. And the second one is done. It cleaned up pretty well. There was a little bit of stuff on that button, but both of these buttons operate in parallel. So even if there was like a little tiny bit of increased resistance due to that, it wouldn't matter too much because the other buttons got pretty good contacts. And I scraped off as much as I could. As you can see, the contact there still looks a little discolored, but that's just because it's missing a little bit of the plating. But otherwise, it's okay. There was nothing else really wrong with this board. The 2 negative contacts, they both clean up really well. You can see that they're pretty shiny. This one's got a tiny little spot of discoloration on one side. The other one actually looks pretty good, but because these 2 were not crosshatched like they were on the other voice box, they didn't take as much damage. It was mostly superficial and kind of like around the edges. So I just scraped off as much as I could off of that, but there's not much need to do anything else. They should be making pretty good contact. And so basically what had happened is with all of that the tarnishing and corrosion that was on the terminal, so it was basically acting as like a crusty layer of insulation. And as I've said before, you want crusts on like bread and stuff like that. No good for electronics. So the other pads that had a little bit of stuff on them, it looks like these are mostly either test pads or maybe they're pads for programming this, which I believe might be a flash ROM. I got to look up that number, but that's probably where the voices are stored. So I'm thinking that this is probably a programmable little unit. I don't know exactly what they do with these. I've never done one of these Build-A-Bear things myself, but I'm assuming that maybe what they do is they have you record your voice on something. They put in like some sort of a pogo pin device that this attaches to, and it uses those pads to program the ROM. So that would kind of make sense. Well, anyways, let's go ahead and pop some batteries into this one. Actually, I need to put these little buttons back, and they just fit into those holes just like that. Oh, and while I was at it, I also cleaned up the actual carbon little rubber pad on them. All right, so those are back on, and since the batteries were good, we're just going to put those back into their spots. And we got nothing. Oh, that's not good. After messing with it for a little bit, I still cannot get it to play anything. I even resoldered the speaker wires going down to the speaker terminals. And I took a look around on the board to see if anything looks like it's been damaged by corrosion or anything like that. But I don't see like anything that looks obviously problematic. And one thing I did check, though, is the 2 wires going to the speakers. So let's bring up the multimeter up in the corner, and I would expect to see maybe about like 8 ohms for a speaker like this, maybe like maximum of like 16. But if I check with the multimeter on these 2 wires, you can see that we have about 11 meg ohms or so. It's dropping. That's kind of weird, but yeah, that should not be anywhere near that level of like resistance. So if I check at the two speaker terminals, we see that we still have over 11 megohms. So that's not correct, I'm pretty sure. And one other thing that I did notice is that the orientation that the speaker's in, you see how it's got these sort of circular cutouts on both sides. I think those are supposed to line up with the battery terminals so that they sort of fit in there. But if I put this board in place, you can, it's going to be hard to see, but it almost looks like the positive terminal from the battery on that side might be making contact with one of the terminals from the speaker. So I don't think that would be correct. And I mean, obviously it wouldn't be, because as you can see, the two wires that go up to the board, the traces look like they go off into this IC. And this is going to be the player IC. It's going to have the amplifier built in and all that stuff. So all the voice recording is going to be stored into this flash chip, which is a 1 megabit flash. I looked it up. And so I think we need to take a look at the speaker and see what's going on with that. And the reason I resoldered the two wires for the speaker soldered onto the board was because they looked a little questionable. The one on this side appeared that it was only holding on by a few, maybe like a couple strands, and it looked a little bit corroded. So I just trimmed it and resoldered it. But like I said, that still didn't fix the issue. So let's see if we can pop this speaker out, and we'll take a better look and see what's going on in there. And the good thing is that it's not glued in place. So if I can figure out what's wrong with it and get it going, I can put it back in place. We can see that stuff looks like maybe it's adhesive on the inside. But let's, well, first of all, I'll desolder the two wires. Well, actually, before I do that, though, let's verify that there is a problem with this speaker. I'll dig out another one. I don't believe that I'm going to have anything that's exactly the same size, but anything that I can attach to it just to see if it plays will let us know if it is for sure the speaker or if there's still something wrong with the board. So let me dig something out. We'll solder it in place and see what happens. Okay, so I found this one. This is also an 8 ohm speaker, 1/2 watt. And unfortunately, it's a little bit bigger than the original, so it's not going to be just, or it wouldn't be just like a drop-in replacement. But let's make sure that we have at least about 8 ohms impedance there on the two terminals. And yeah, about 7.5. So this speaker is for sure good. So now I will take the two wires off of that speaker, put them on this one, and we'll see if it plays. And let's just verify that we have continuity on these wires going all the way from the board to the speaker, which I don't think should be an issue. So that one is fine. Oh, I have them crossed. So, okay, so it'd be this one. Yeah, there we go. That's good. I mean, it pretty much gave us, well, it actually didn't test both of them, but yeah, there we go. So this should work, assuming this board is working. So let's see what happens when we put the batteries back into their holders. And I'm just going to see if I can make contact across one of the button pads. Hey, it's trying to play, but yeah, I think maybe even though these batteries tested like they were okay, they might be a bit weak. Let's see what let's put this on voltage mode. So it's sitting at about 3.15 volts right now. Let's see what happens when I push the button. Oh, yeah, it drops quite a bit. It could also be that this speaker, even though it is an 8 ohm speaker, the wattage might be a little too high, and maybe it loads down the batteries too much and it drops the voltage, causing it to reset. But at least we know that the board is trying to work. So it's something with the speaker for sure. So starting from the voice coil part of the speaker, we can see that the wires, the coil, the two wires coming off of it look like they're fully intact, coming all the way to the edge of the speaker, and so they're underneath this adhesive stuff. And if we flip it over, we can see that the adhesive stuff runs all the way to the top, and those two leads are going to end up in this area. All right, so it's possible that the coil is totally fine. It's just maybe underneath this adhesive, one of the two wires, or one or both, may not be fully making contact for whatever reason. So what I'll do is I'm going to try to remove some of this adhesive we'll see if we can get this speaker going again. And I actually did a speaker repair on a speaker similar to this, a lot smaller though, for a Game Boy Color a few months back, I believe. And in that case, the voice coil had become completely detached from the cone, but the coil itself was still soldered properly to the board in the end, even though I took everything apart. But thankfully on this one, looks like maybe we might be able to fix it by fixing whatever's wrong in this area. Okay, helping hands to the rescue. So let's see what we can do. There we go. That seems to be working a little better. Just touching the pads is helping it heat up a little bit more and softening up that adhesive. So there we go. I removed the chunk of it. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on just from that. Okay, so I can see one wire on the right. What the heck is on this? Anyways, there's one wire on the right side. I don't see anything on this side. Either that or it's still buried underneath somewhere. Actually, we can see it there from the side. So, does this look okay? Sort of looks okay. That looks like it's intact. There we go. We've enhanced it even more. It looks like it is soldered at least all the way up to there. Or is it? Is it broken there? Well, unfortunately, I'm not seeing anything that would visually indicate that there is a break in this wire, at least not up to this point. One thing I could try doing is that it's possible that maybe there was a still insulation left on the two wires soldered down. What is this? Oh, I thought this was a part of the copper wire coming up, but maybe not. But anyways, I could try resoldering the two terminals and see if maybe there was some insulation there that was causing problems for some reason. Maybe when the speaker was first manufactured, it was working fine. And then over time, for some reason, maybe the copper itself got a bit tarnished or something, stopped making good contact. So I'll reflow it, and then we'll check resistance again and see if it changed at all. So I'm just going to start by putting a bit of flux on both of those. There we go. Just going to touch this a little bit. Get it to melt. You can see a piece of the wire going up there. So it appears that that's intact. That one broke. That's the problem right there. So it broke a little bit further down into the adhesive. All right. So we'll have to remove. Oops, I just touched the bench. So we'll have to remove this adhesive and put an extension from where it broke coming up into the solder pads. So yeah, there it is. So that's the problem. That's why the speaker's not working. All right, got the speaker situated in the helping hands. Let's see if we can dig this out. I would like to use some hot air, but I'm worried about melting the plastic basket a bit too much. It's kind of difficult keeping this in the shot because I'm trying to work on it by looking at it with my bare eyes, not through the microscope. But there it is. Looks like I'm exposing that wire. If I can just get it to pop out a little bit. Come on now. There it goes. There it is. So, yep, definitely broken. Kind of weird how it broke down that far and inside the adhesive, no less. So this must have been a factory defect. Now let's see if I can tin this wire. Working at a absolutely microscopic scale. This is kind of difficult. All right, looks like I tinned it at least on the end there a bit. To be honest, I can't even see this wire with my naked eyes. It's just, I only see it through the microscope. And where'd it go? Did it break more? It looks like it's gone. Or, oh, no. There it is. It's that right there, right? I hope. Or is that plastic? Oh, no, that looks like it's plastic. Oh, man. I think it broke in further down. Well, that's great. All right, guess we got to dig some more. mean, I'm hoping we can salvage this. I don't have another speaker. Like I said, I'd have to try to hunt one down to replace this. All right, that was a bit of a pain, but I got some of the wire right there re-exposed. We just have that little tiny bit of nub that I can try to solder to. It's weird because for some reason, it just, every time I would dig up a little bit, it just kept breaking further and further back, even though I wasn't like putting a lot of pressure on it or anything. So maybe there's something up with this copper, but either way, I'll try to solder to that, even though that looks kind of weak. But if I could at least solder another piece of wire to it and get this to maybe bend back down, maybe salvageable. Let's see. I also melted the plastic a little more than I wanted to, but I think it'll be okay. And I seem to have lost it again. All right, let's see if I can do this. I managed to break the other wire as well, and I'm trying to use a super thin single strand of, this is non-insulated wire, but I'm going to try to keep them separated. And if I could get it to even get near making contact with the other one, I also switched to a much smaller tip, and my steady hands, they don't work here. There we go. Okay, I think I got that one. I do think I got that one. Sweet. All right, try to bend it down a little bit. The other one is up there, I believe. I believe it's that thing right there that I'm pointing at, which is going to be very difficult, but that right there. So try to get another thin strand of wire, and I'm actually tinning the wire before I try to attach it just to make it easier. I also coated it in a little bit of flux. You can see it looks kind of gooey. So if I can try to get this in place, and it's extremely difficult because I'm working at such tiny dimensions that it's like right there. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, that's the wire right there. You saw it move a little bit. This is so small. I think that may have attached. As painful as that was. Man, this looks like such a disaster zone, but it's really small compared to the rest of the speaker. So it doesn't look too bad with the naked eye, but it just, yeah, it looks ugly up close like this. So let's see if we have continuity now between the two wires. Okay, so I got these two soldered, or I hope that they're soldered to the voice coil. So we shouldn't have, there we go. Okay, so we shouldn't have this. We should have maybe like 8 or 16 ohms or so. Let's see what happens. We've got nothing. So yeah, that I think the first wire did solder to the existing wire, but this one did not. Yep, you can see the copper right there. So that's what I need this to solder to. Actually, this is just solder. I'm just going to try to tin it some more. I don't know if I lost some material there. Ugh, my hands are so shaky at this diminutive size here. Okay, I think I got that tinned. Yes, I think I got it. And it broke. Maybe. Okay, round 2. Let's see. Where are the wires? I can't even see them. Oh, there's one. And there's the other. Yeah! So, yep, it's supposed to be about 16 ohms. So, looks like that is going to work. Now I just have to carefully maybe glue those in. And I need to get these. I'm just going to leave like a bit of slack. I'm not going to make them like super tight. Tack those down to their respective sides like that. And then I'll put a little bit of adhesive in there. As you can see, I mean, you could tell that it's kind of melted, but it doesn't look as bad with the naked eye as it does up close. I mean, it still looks kind of ugly, but as long as we're getting good contact, and I'll put a little bit of adhesive on that side as well, maybe this will stay working. So let's try to button it up, and it should work. All right, put a little tiny drop of flux on those terminals, and I'm just going to tack this down. Okay, so I got both of those tacked down. I should just be able to... I think I'm going to use a blade. There we go. And there we go. Now, I do want to make sure that those two wires are not touching each other because they are not insulated. And as we can see up close, it looks like they're almost touching each other. So I'm just going to try to separate them a little bit. And I do want to clean off some of this flux that's still on the wires. Push that down just a tad into that cavity. There we go. Now, I do want to be careful because I do not want to move these around too much and cause them to break again. So I'm just going to carefully, well, first of all, I'm going to spray the area with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and then just use a cotton swab to just sort of dab it around to clean off as much as the flux as I can before I try applying some adhesive. And hopefully they'll stay intact. I'm not going to try to scrub this at all with anything because I do not want those wires to break. So just going to carefully dab it. It's still absorbing some of the stuff, as you can see, so hopefully that should be enough. And with the wires running through the middle, I'm just going to gently try to shave the edges a little bit. See how huge this blade looks in comparison to the wires. Okay, I think that's going to do it. And as you can see, it was barely any plastic, but it looked like a lot up close. So before I glue that in place, though, let's verify that the speaker is still good. So connect these. And yep, still have about almost 15 ohms. It's still intact, so, and we don't have a short, so that's good. Alrighty, so I'm just going to apply some adhesive to this area. And this is, it says T7000, but I think this is some knockoff stuff, but it works okay. So let's put some on. And I'm basically just going to try to protect the entirety of where these wires are. All right, I think that should do it. So I'm just going to let that dry, and then I'll resolder the two wires going back to the voice board. At this point, the speaker's been sitting for several hours. I've been letting the adhesive dry, and it's to the point where it's fairly solid. It's no longer liquid. It's got a slight tiny bit of tackiness to it, but it's really not that bad. And if you didn't know any better, you'd probably think that that was all original. It's very difficult to tell that I even did anything to it. But let's test it once more before I solder the wires back onto it. Let's just make sure that we do have about the 15 ohms that we had before. So that looks pretty good. All right, so then I'm going to resolder the two wires from the board to the speaker. And one thing I did notice is that this speaker is supposed to go in a certain direction. It has a sort of a pin there that's supposed to index it to this bit of casing. You can see right there, there's a cutout for it. So it appears that maybe when this thing was opened up to replace the batteries, the speaker must have like popped out, and then whoever replaced the batteries must have just popped it in wherever it would fit. Because as you can see, if that's indexed properly, then these two battery cutouts that I was talking about, they do face or pretty much go where the battery contacts are to clear them. So obviously that didn't happen. So I'm wondering if maybe that's what caused that wire to get damaged somehow. Although it's pretty weird that it was all underneath the adhesive. So I'm going to solder these back on, and after that, it should work just fine. Okay, so now I'm going to try to make sure that the speaker goes in the proper orientation. Yeah, so pretty much goes like that. You can see that it's inserted in there properly. So now I can put the batteries back on. And this should just fit right in like so. All right, let's see. Is it going to work? Oh boy. Is that what it's supposed to be? Or is the battery still getting dragged down? Sounds kind of weird. Here, let's see what the battery does when I push the button. Oh, it's working. There it is. Okay, sounds like she's saying, "Hi, Mama," but it sounds a little like it was recorded with the microphone a little too close. Yeah, I think these batteries must be getting weak or something because it sometimes cuts out. Yeah, it drops quite a bit. I had gone to get 3 batteries for this one so that I could properly test it, and this one was working properly. So I'm just going to borrow 2 of the batteries just to make sure that that thing's working properly. Okay, so we'll just try it with these other brand new ones. Oh, there we go. That sounds way better. It sounded really distorted with the those other batteries that are low. So I'm guessing what must have happened is I did ask my friend if they did replace the batteries for sure when he took it into the store. He said they did. So I'm guessing that, and they're all the same as we can see. So I'm guessing what must have happened is all that corrosion and stuff on these boards was causing a bit of current to flow between the positive and the negative terminals of the batteries, and it caused them to drain because these were a lot more drained than these were. So yeah, this one's gonna need some new batteries as well. So unfortunately, we cannot use any of the new batteries. And funny thing is, when I texted my friend to verify that these had gotten new batteries, and he told me, yes, I guess I kind of ruined the surprise. It was supposed to be a Christmas thing for his wife, and I guess she was in the car with him, and he must have played it over the head unit or something. He goes like, thanks for ruining it. She's in the car with me. I'm like, whoops, my bad. But I'm sure she'll be happy that these are working once again. Hopefully the speaker on this one holds up. I don't know how durable that repair is going to be. I'm hoping that, I mean, it doesn't go bad ever again, but if it does, then I'm going to have to try to find a replacement. I did measure it. It measures about 1.25 inches in diameter, which is almost 32 millimeters. So if I can find a speaker like, somewhere in that range, that's also 16 ohms at a low wattage, then I think that'll be a suitable replacement for it. All right. Well, both of these are working once again. I just know that this one's going to need new batteries, but I mean, that's an easy problem to solve. So yeah, that's going to do it. I'm glad that we were able to get both of these working. And my friend's wife's going to be super happy, I bet, because he said that she was super sad when both of these didn't work anymore because they're recordings of their 2 daughters. So I think this is going to be it. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys around the bench.